Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Let's Talk About It podcast with herself, Liz Bean. How are you guys? This is going to be a longer episode. But before I get into the actual episode, I want to try something different and talk to you about some pop culture things that have been on my mind that I have an interest in as like a little yap session and talk to y'all before we get into the serious stuff of the episode. So, first, I want to talk about Ariana Grande because I love her and I think she's a great person and singer. And I feel like a lot of what I've been seeing is people body shaming her, especially since the Wicked press tour and movie coming out. Everyone has an opinion about her body, and it bothers me because someone I consider a sister of mine has the same body type that Ariana Grande has. She's always been small and skinny her whole life. The girl can eat more than me and doesn't gain any weight. She even had a baby, and that was the most weight she's gained ever. Some people just have an extremely high metabolism and don't gain weight like everyone else does. That doesn't mean we should body shame anyone because of their weight. I think it's gross that other people feel the need to talk about celebrities' bodies so freely and don't think about how it affects them in their mental state. I just don't agree with people having opinions about other people's body or life, especially like I've been hearing a lot of people saying that she has an eating disorder or she's doing drugs, which I think is stupid because Ariana Grande has been the same size since she's been on TV her whole life. She has really not gained any weight, and I don't know why we expect her to be anything than what she is. Like, just that's her body type, and that's how her body works, and we should not be shaming people because of that. And now I want to talk about Sabrina Carpenter, who is another star that I love and support, and this is just my opinions about the situation. I don't think adults should be taking their kids to her concerts, then complain that it's too sexual. She's a grown woman who is not on the Disney Channel and hasn't been for years. So if you take your small children to her concert and get mad, you are just ignorant and part of the problem, in my opinion. Honestly, because there's clips of her concert everywhere on the internet showing that it's not exactly appropriate for kids. If you're okay with the kids sing that, then to each their own. But if you listen to any of her music, which is sexual, you would know that her concerts aren't going to be PG. And if you as a parent are taking your kid to her concerts and getting mad and say, well, I didn't know, I don't listen to her music, you're a bad parent and part of the problem. Because if my kids show an interest in something, I look it up and make sure that if I get them something pertaining to what they like or what they have an interest in is appropriate. They are toddlers, but I still looked up Blippi and Bluey and all the stuff like that, and I watch it with them because I don't want them watching something bad or inappropriate. When they had tablets, I would be watching what they watch and go through them through their tablets when they sleep because I don't want them watching anything inappropriate. I mean, that's the bare minimum you can do as a parent. Like, look into whatever your kid has an interest in. It's as simple as that. It doesn't really take that long of a time to look up someone and see what they do as a living. I'm saying this and because I saw a video of these people on a talk show talking about it, and this dad saying, well, the kids want to go see Young Thug or whoever in concert. He's like, I don't have the time to look that up. Then you're a shitty parent, in my opinion, because I don't care. I hate Blippi. He's annoying as heck, but I watch it with my kids. I know I'm an excavator, okay? Look, I'm with all the kids stuff, and I'm like making sure that it's nothing inappropriate that they are watching. So that's the bare minimum you can do as a parent, in my opinion. Just do a little research about what they're looking at or have an interest in. And now to the final pop culture yappy topic, which is more serious. This whole Wheat Pete situation, who I guess is a cosplayer, but I haven't watched any of his content. I found out about this from a different TikToker, but apparently this sick guy thought it would be appropriate for him and his friend to dress up as P. Diddy and Justin Bieber and reenact inappropriate scenes with baby oil and some other things. I did not see the video. I did try to find it, but only saw his sad excuse of an apology. And honestly, it makes me mad that these people made fun of a traumatizing situation, not only for Justin, but all the other victims involved in the P. Diddy case. I think it's disgusting that They would think that it would be funny, and that goes for everyone making fun of the situation. It's not a laughing matter at all. People were assaulted repeatedly by someone they thought they could trust. And I will do a full episode on this situation once the court hearings are over and everything. It's just hard right now because it feels like every week there's more and more information coming out about the whole situation. I don't want to wait so I can get all the information in one episode without confusing anyone. So, yeah. But anyone who makes fun of this situation is just, you don't think before you do it. Like, there are people out there who have been through situations, not even P. Diddy, the famous person, but just in general in their daily lives, who have been sexually assaulted by people that they thought they could trust. And y'all are making fun of that, and it's not okay. And y'all need to stop because it's sick and messed up, and it's not funny or cool in any way. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's get into this episode, guys. In this episode, I want to talk about first the signs of an abusive relationship, kind of what to look for in your relationship to know if it may be abusive, and what to look for in your friends and family's relationships to know if they're an abusive relationship. And I'll also be talking about the red flags and using religion as a form of abuse. And at the end, I'll be talking about, I'm sorry if I'm saying any other names wrong, Caron, Nazario, and Veronika Rodriguez. And Veronica's case does pertain to a sexual assault case. So if that triggers you or upsets you, just don't watch it. It's at the very, very end of it. Recognizing an abusive relationship can be difficult because abusive behaviors can develop gradually over time and may be subtle. Here are key warning signs to watch for if you're wondering whether your relationship is abusive. Emotional and psychological abuse, constant criticism or put downs, like your partner frequently belittles, insults, or mocks you, diminishing your self-worth and confidence. This can include harsh comments, sarcasm, or name-calling. Gaslighting. Your partner manipulates situations to make you question your perception of reality. They may deny past events, twist facts, or blame you for things that they did, leaving you feeling confused and doubting yourself. Isolation. Your partner may attempt to isolate you from friends, family, or support systems. They could guilt you into cutting ties with others, control your life, or discourage you from seeing your loved ones. Extreme jealousy or possessiveness. If your partner constantly accuses you of infidelity or gets excessively jealous when you spend time with others, this is a sign of unhealthy possessiveness. Controlling behavior. This includes dictating what you can wear, who you can talk to, or where you can go. They may track your movements or demand constant updates about your whereabouts. Mood swings and unpredictability. If your partner frequently switches between kindness and rage, leaving you walking on eggshells, this is a sign of emotional manipulation. The unpredictability keeps you anxious and fearful. Physical abuse can be any form of physical harm. This includes hitting, slapping, choking, pushing, or any other form of physical violence. Even if it happens once, physical abuse should not be tolerated. Intimidation. They may destroy property, punch walls, or use threats of violence to intimidate you without necessarily causing direct harm. The goal is to make you afraid and submissive. Sexual abuse. Coercion or pressure to engage in sexual activities. Your partner may pressure you into sexual acts that you're uncomfortable with, or guilt you into believing that it is your duty to meet their needs regardless of how you feel. Non-consensual acts. Any form of forced sexual activity, including during a fight or while you're asleep or incapacitated, is abuse. Financial abuse means controlling your finances, like your partner may take control of your financial resources, dictate how your money is spent, or limit your access to personal funds, leaving you financially dependent on them, or sabotaging employment. They may prevent you from working, sabotage your job, or take your income in order to limit your independence. And verbal abuse, as in yelling or screaming, constantly being yelled at, threatened, or verbally attacked, is a sign of verbal abuse. Over time, this can cause emotional trauma, make you feel small or worthless. And public humiliation is another form of this. If your partner embarrasses you in front of others or constantly undermines you in social settings, it's a form of verbal abuse meant to control or shame you. Threats and coercion. threats of violence or harm. Your partner may threaten to harm you, your children, pets, or even themselves as a way to control or manipulate you into submission, or using your children as leverage. In some cases, an abuser might use threats related to child custody or harm to manipulate or control you, making you fearful of leaving. Cycle of abuse. Many abusive relationships follow a cycle. It starts with tension building, small conflicts arise, and tension escalates. And then an incident, the abusive behavior occurs, physical, emotional, or otherwise. And reconciliation, the abuser apologizes, shows remorse, or downplays the incident. And then the calm, the relationship appears to stabilize, leading the victim to believe things are better until the cycle repeats. Psychological and emotional effects. Constant fear. You feel anxious or fearful around your partner, worried how they will react to simple situations. Other people refer to this as walking on eggshells. Low self esteem. Over time, being put down, criticized, or controlled can wear down your self worth, making you believe you deserve the mistreatment. And then depression or anxiety. Many victims of abuse develop mental health issues like depression, anxiety, or PTSD. I'm going to get into more of the cycle of abuse here. The cycle of abuse is a pattern of behaviors that occurs in many abusive relationships. It was first described by psychologist Lenore Walker in 1979, and it typically involves 4 key stages that repeat over time. Understanding the cycle is crucial to recognizing abusive patterns and finding ways to break free from them. The 4 phases of the cycle of abuse, tension building. And what happens is tension gradually builds in the relationship due to minor conflicts or irritations. The abuser may become more critical, angry, or controlling, while the victim feels anxious and tries to placate the abuser to avoid conflict. This phase often involves walking on eggshells as the victim tries to prevent escalation. Common signs are emotional withdrawal by the victim, increased verbal hostility from the abuser, fear, anxiety, and anticipation of an impending blowup. In the incident, what happens is the tension culminates into a major abusive episode, which can be verbal, emotional, physical, or sexual. This is the most dangerous part of the cycle as it often involves violence, threats, or other aggressive behavior. Common signs are hitting, slapping, for physical violence. Emotional or verbal abuse would be screaming and name calling, and destruction of property or threats of harm. And then reconciliation or the honeymoon phase. And what happens is after the abusive incident, the abuser may express remorse, apologize, or promise that it will never happen again. They may also blame external factors, stress, alcohol, etc., or the victim for provoking them. The abuser might temporarily become loving and attentive, showering the victim with affections or gifts. Common signs of this are apologies and promises of change, expressions of love and affection, minimization or denial of the abuse, a temporary sense of calm and relief for the victim. And then the calm. What happens is in this phase, there's a temporary period of peace and normalcy. The abuser may act like nothing happened, and both partners may try to forget the abuse. This phase can last for varying amounts of time, but the underlying issues remain unsolved, and eventually tension starts building again. Common signs are the abuser's behavior appears calm and loving. The victim may feel hopeful that the abuse is over. Both may avoid discussing the previous abuse. How to break away from the cycle of abuse. Breaking away from the cycle of abuse is difficult, but it is possible with support and careful planning. Here are some steps that can help. Recognizing the abuse, acknowledging that you are in an abusive relationship. Many victims struggle to see the patterns or minimize the abuse, but recognizing the cycle is the first step to breaking free. Build a support network. Seek help. Reach out to trusted friends, family members, or support groups. Abusers often try to isolate their victims, so it's essential to reconnect with others for emotional and practical support. Professional support. Consider contacting a therapist or counselor who specializes in abusive relationships. Many communities also offer domestic violence hotlines or shelters where you can get immediate support. Develop a safety plan. Safety during an incident. Have an exit strategy if a violent episode occurs. Know where to go, how to leave, and have important documents, money, and clothes packed in a safe place. Consider legal protection. Explore your options for legal protection, such as obtaining a restraining order or filing criminal charges if necessary. Seeking legal and financial independence. If you are financially dependent on your abuser, finding financial independence is critical. Seek out legal aid or organizations that help survivors of abuse gain financial stability, find employment, or secure housing. Challenge the honeymoon phase. It's easy to feel hopeful during the reconciliation phase, but it's crucial to remember that this is part of the cycle. Abusers often return to abusive behaviors once the honeymoon phase ends. Breaking the cycle requires recognizing that the promises of change are often manipulative. Therapy and healing. Therapy for survivors of abuse can help process the trauma and rebuild self-esteem. Trauma-informed counseling or cognitive behavioral therapy can help you address emotional and physical impacts of the abuse. Empowerment through education. Learn about healthy relationship dynamics and red flags for abuse. Empowering yourself with knowledge helps in recognizing harmful behaviors earlier in future relationships. Breaking the cycle of abuse is difficult because it often involves emotional manipulation, financial control, and physical fear. However, with support, careful planning, and professional help, victims can escape the cycle, rebuild their lives, and regain a sense of independence and security. If you think someone you know is in an abusive relationship, there are several signs to look for. Abusive relationships can often involve various forms of physical, emotional, sexual, and financial control, but victims may hide or downplay their situation out of fear, shame, or loyalty to the abuser. Here are some key signs to watch for. Behavioral signs. Changes in personality. The person may seem more anxious, withdrawn, or depressed than usual. They might display low self-esteem or increased sensitivity to criticism. They may seem constantly on edge, anxious to please their partner, or unusually defensive about the relationship. Isolation from friends and family. The person may have gradually distanced themselves from loved ones, including friends, family, and social activities they once enjoyed. The partner may discourage or prevent them from spending time with others. The partner might make excuses to isolate them by controlling where they go, who they talk to, and limiting their access to support. Excessive communication from the partner. The partner may constantly check in on them, call or text excessively, or show up unexpectedly. This controlling behavior can make the victim feel like they are always being watched or controlled. Reluctance to speak freely. The person may seem afraid to express their opinions, particularly if their partner is present. They might avoid talking about their relationship, or they might seem to walk on eggshells around their partner. Frequent excuses for the partner's behavior. The person may make excuses for the partner's controlling, jealous, or aggressive behavior, often rationalizing it as stress, jealousy, or their own fault. Sudden changes in appearance or behavior. They may start dressing differently or changing their appearance, often because their partner demands it. They might lose interest in activities they once enjoyed or adopt new habits that seem out of character. And the physical signs would be unexplained injuries. The person may have frequent unexplained bruises, cuts, or injuries. They may offer fake explanations or change their story when asked about the injuries. They might wear long sleeves or sunglasses to cover bruises, even in inappropriate weather conditions. signs of neglect or malnutrition. They may appear physically unhealthy with notable weight loss, poor hygiene, or signs of malnutrition, potentially as a result of emotional stress or restricted access to food and resources by the partner. Emotional and psychological signs: excessive guilt or self-blame. Victims of abuse often blame themselves for the mistreatment, feeling that they are responsible for the partner's anger or abusive behavior. They may apologize excessively for small mistakes or seem to feel undeserving of kindness. Fear of partner's reaction. If your friend or loved one seems overly concerned about upsetting their partner, fears that their partner's anger or acts fearful when talking about certain subjects, this could be a sign of an abusive dynamic. Constantly seeking permission, the person may feel the need to ask for their partner's permission before making decisions or attending social events. This can be an indicator of controlling behavior. Sudden anxiety or panic attacks. Some victims of abuse experience severe anxiety, panic attacks, or signs of PTSD due to the ongoing trauma that they endure. Financial control. Lack of access to money. The person may mention or show signs of not having access to their own money or being controlled financially by their partner, such as needing to ask for money or being prevented from working. Being cut off from resources. The partner may control their finances, restrict access to credit cards or bank accounts, or closely monitor their spending. What you can do to help is listen and offer support, approach them gently, and express concern for their safety and well-being. Avoid judgment or pressuring them to take action right away. Offer non-judgmental support and let them know that you're there to help if and when they're ready. Helping them identify the abuse. They may not fully recognize that they're in an abusive relationship. Gently sharing the signs of abuse and encouraging them to reflect on their experiences can help them understand their situation. Encourage professional help. Suggest that they speak to a counselor, therapist, or an organization that specializes in domestic violence. Offer to help them find resources or accompany them to appointments if they feel comfortable. And provide practical support. Offer to be a safe person that they can turn to for help, whether it's providing a place to stay, giving a ride, or helping them access financial or legal resources. Avoid confronting the abuser, as this could escalate the danger for both you and your loved one. When considering a new relationship, it's essential to recognize potential red flags that might signal an abusive dynamic later on. Here are some key warnings to watch for to avoid getting involved in an abusive relationship. Excessive control early on. Overly controlling behavior. If your partner seems to dictate what you wear, where you go, or who you spend time with early in the relationship, it could escalate into more severe controlling behaviors over time. Monitoring or stalking. If they demand to know your whereabouts constantly, check your phone, or become upset when you're not immediately available, this is a red flag for future control and abuse. Jealousy and possessiveness. Extreme jealousy. Healthy relationships involve trust. But if your partner is frequently jealous or accuses you of infidelity with little or no reason, this can lead to possessive and abusive behavior. Wanting you all to themselves. They may push you to cut off contact with friends and family, trying to isolate you. Isolation is a common tactic in abusive relationships, as it makes the victim more dependent on the abuser. Moving too fast. Love bombing. Early declarations of love, rushing the relationship, or putting pressure on you to make commitments, moving in, getting engaged, etc. too soon can be a red flag. While it might seem romantic at first, abusers often use this to establish control before the abusive behavior escalates. And disrespect for your boundaries. Ignoring your boundaries. Someone who refuses to respect your physical, emotional, or sexual boundaries is likely to continue violating them. Consent and respect for boundaries are critical in any relationship. Pressuring you for sex. If your partner pressures you into sexual activities you're not comfortable with or doesn't respect your decisions around physical intimacy, this can be a form of sexual abuse. Criticism and demanding behavior, belittling or insulting, and frequent put-downs, mocking, or making you feel like you're never good enough can be signs of emotional abuse. A partner who regularly undermines your self-worth can become emotionally abusive over time, making you feel incompetent. They may constantly correct you, criticize your decisions, or imply that you're incapable of doing anything right. This can erode your self-confidence and lead to more severe emotional manipulation. Blaming others for their problems. Lack of responsibility. If your partner refuses to take responsibility for their actions and frequently blames others or you for their problems, it can be a sign of emotional immaturity and a potential for abusive behavior. Victim mentality. Abusers often position themselves as a victim in every situation, deflecting blame for their wrongdoings and justifying their abusive behavior by portraying themselves as misunderstood or mistreated. Temper and aggression. Sudden outbursts of anger, even if the anger is not directed at you. Frequent rage or explosive temper over minor issues is a warning sign that your partner may have difficulty controlling their emotions, which could lead to abusive actions. Threats of violence. If your partner makes threats to hurt you, themselves, or others, this is a significant red flag. Threats, even if not followed through, are a form of emotional manipulation and control. How to protect yourself. Trust your instincts. If something feels off or too good to be true, listen to your gut. Early discomfort is often an indicator that something isn't right. Maintain independence. Keep your own friends, hobbies, and financial independence. Abusers often try to isolate and control their partners, so maintaining your personal independence can prevent this. Set boundaries. Make sure your boundaries are respected early on in the relationship. If they are consistently ignored, it is a major red flag. Take things slowly. Avoid rushing into serious commitments until you've had time to observe your partner's behavior in different situations. Recognizing red flags early on can help prevent involvement in an abusive relationship. Abusive behavior typically escalates over time, so early intervention and boundary settings are crucial. If you recognize any of these signs, consider reaching out to a trusted friend, family member, or professional for support. All right, now moving on to the second main topic of this episode, using religion as a form of abuse. Often referred to as spiritual abuse, can have profound psychological, emotional, and social effects on individuals. Spiritual abuse can occur when religious beliefs or practices are manipulated to control, manipulate, or oppress individuals, often in personal relationships, religious communities, or even by religious leaders. Key topics on spiritual religious abuse. Manipulation of religious doctrine for control. Example. In some cases, abusers use religious texts or beliefs to justify harmful behavior such as subjugation of women, marital rape, or forced obedience. Abusers may cite religious authority to manipulate victims into staying in unhealthy or violent relationships, convincing them that they must forgive or accept mistreatment as a religious duty. Effects. This can lead to guilt, fear, and confusion for the victim, particularly if they have a strong religious background. It also isolates them by discouraging them from seeking help outside the religious community. Exclusion or excommunication. Example. Some religious groups may shun or excommunicate individuals who do not conform to the group's practices or who speak out against abuses. This type of punishment can alienate people from their social support networks and instill fear of eternal punishment. Effects. The fear of isolation or spiritual condemnation can trap victims in abusive environments, causing extreme emotional distress, anxiety, and depression. Using fear of divine punishment, abusers may threaten victims with the idea of divine retribution, hell, or sinfulness to maintain control. For example, a person might be told that they will go to hell or face divine punishment if they leave an abusive partner, disobey the abuser, or question religious authority. This form of coercion can damage a person's sense of self-worth, leading them to believe they are inherently sinful or unworthy. It creates an unhealthy association between spirituality and fear, leading to spiritual trauma. Gender roles and oppression. In some religious contexts, patriarchal systems are enforced where women are seen as subservient to men. These systems can be manipulated by abusers to justify domestic abuse or deny women independence, including financial or personal autonomy. This leads to long-term psychological impacts such as low self-esteem, anxiety, and a sense of powerlessness. Women in such situations may be discouraged from seeking divorce or legal protection because of religious mandates on submission or forgiveness. Religious guilt and shame. Victims may be made to feel shameful or guilty for any behavior or thoughts that are considered outside the religious norm, such as questioning authority or the abusive dynamics within their relationship or community. This leads to internal conflict and a fractured sense of self. Individuals may feel trapped, believing they are spiritually or morally wrong for seeking help or change, which contributes to prolonged suffering. Children and spiritual abuse. Religious leaders or parents may use religious teachings to instill fear in children, often using extreme forms of discipline or coercion under the guise of correcting or saving them from sin. In extreme cases, children may be exposed to exorcisms or abusive religious rituals. This can lead to developmental trauma where children grow up with warped perceptions of authority, religion, and personal autonomy. It can foster lifelong struggles with identity, trust, and spirituality. Psychological and emotional effects of religious abuse. Depression and anxiety. Victims may develop feelings of hopelessness, guilt, or fear, which can evolve into chronic mental health conditions. Spiritual confusion. Survivors often experience deep confusion about their faith and relationship with religion. Some might reject religion altogether, while others grapple with reconciling their beliefs with the trauma they've endured. Trust issues. Spiritual abuse often involves betrayal of trust, especially if the abuser is a religious leader or authority figure. This can extend into a difficulty trusting others, including mental health professionals or other spiritual guides. Coping and healing. Reclaiming spiritual autonomy. Victims may need to redefine their personal spirituality, often with the help of trauma-informed therapists or counselors familiar with spiritual abuse. Healing involves separating their beliefs from the manipulations they experienced. Support groups and counseling. Faith-based or secular support groups can provide safe spaces for survivors to discuss their experiences without judgment and learn healthy ways to reconnect with their spirituality if they choose. Religious abuse is a form of psychological manipulation that uses faith, guilt, and fear to control and harm individuals. It can have a profound, long-term effects on victims' mental health, sense of identity, and relationships with both their community and spirituality. Understanding how religion can be weaponized is important for identifying abuse and supporting survivors in their recovery process. Religion has been used in some relationships as a tool for abuse, and there are cases where courts have addressed such issues. Religious abuse in relationships typically involves leveraging spiritual beliefs to control, manipulate, or harm a partner. This can include using guilt, shame, or misinterpreted doctrines to justify abusive behavior or to coerce a victim into staying in an unhealthy relationship. For example, abusers might claim that leaving the relationship would be a sin, or use scriptures to demand submission. Instilling fear of divine retribution, victims may face pressure from religious communities to prioritize family unity over their safety, which can make it harder to leave an abusive situation. Courts and advocacy groups have increasingly recognized these dynamics and aim to provide resources for victims seeking help, such as restraining orders or counseling that separates religious values from abuse. And this is kind of just my opinion about religion. This is my own personal opinion and how I feel about it. I'm not trying to convince anyone else to think this way. Just want to put that out there. But I went to private Christian school from my 6th grade to my junior year. And while yes, I was a young child who enjoyed going to school, but the terrifying thought that I would go to hell because I liked girls or guys, or that I didn't go to church or pray enough, or that I wasn't grateful enough terrified me. And it terrifies me that other children are also going through that. I don't believe that there's some white bearded man up in the clouds watching us all the time or telling us what to do. To be honest, it's kind of creepy to think about. But I do believe there's something that makes stuff happen, whether it be energy that flows through everyone, karma, or whatever. I also believe in reincarnation. But that being said, I would never be with someone who forced me to go to church or practice religion that I'm not comfortable with. You believe what you want, and I believe what I want. Everyone can interpret it in their own way because no two people think the same way. I also want to talk about some religious abuse that my mother told me that her husband put her through. My goal with this is to hopefully eventually convince her to do the right thing. Because if a man really did love you, he would not make you perform sexual acts on him and say, well, the Lord says to serve your husband. That is sexual and religious abuse. And no man should ever put their wife through that, regardless of your beliefs. That is disgusting and terrible for you to force your wife into sex because God told you she doesn't do this, she doesn't love you. One of the many reasons that I don't practice religion or would be with someone who does. Because it's just crazy. I don't know. To me, I think any organized religion is a cult, basically, because it's one person trying to force you into their beliefs, and you might not interpret it the same way. And so, if you don't, according to them, you're going to hell. And I just don't agree with that at all in any way, shape, or form. That's just my personal opinion on religion as a whole. Now I'm going to talk about, and I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. I apologize 100 times. Caron or Caron. It's spelled Caron. So I think it's Caron, but I'm not sure. Caron Nazario. A black soldier in a uniform who was pepper sprayed in his car by Virginia police officers during a traffic stop has been awarded less than $4,000 in $1 million lawsuit against the two officers. The jury awarded Second Lieutenant Caron Nazario a total of $3,685 in the lawsuit against Windsor, Virginia. Police officers Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker. The officers faced 4 counts: assault, battery, false imprisonment, and illegal seizure. Gutierrez was ordered to pay $2,685 in damages. No malice under liability for assault. He was cleared of all other charges. And Crocker was liable for an illegal search, no malice. He was ordered to pay $1,000 in damages. He was cleared of all other charges. Nazario's lawyer, Tom Roberts, said it was a sad day and that the verdicts failed to send the message to other police officers that this conduct is unacceptable. It is open season on citizens in Virginia and across the country, Roberts said in a statement. Citizens will not rest, assured that scenes like this are not repeated with impunity. The officers pulled over Nazario on the evening of December 5th, 2020. Body camera footage shows Gutierrez pepper spray Nazario when he would not get out of the car. One of the officers wrote in the police report that Nazario eluded police because he didn't stop right away. Nazario stated that he wanted to pull over in a well-lit area. I'm honestly afraid to get out, Nazario said during the traffic stop. Yeah, you should be, Gutierrez replied. Police said that they pulled him over for not having a visible rear license plate, but in the footage, a temporary license plate can be seen in the rear window of Nazario's then new SUV. Nazario was not charged in the incident. Gutierrez was fired by the Windsor Police Department in 2021 for not following department policy during the incident. Now, I didn't know that this happened in 2020. I just saw this on TikTok the other day, and it enraged me. It made me so mad that a black officer who was literally minding his own business in traffic did not break any traffic violations just because y'all claimed you couldn't see his license plate. But in the video, you can see the tag in his rear view window, so there was no reason to pull him over. And even if you did, the videos that I saw, they were immediately screaming at him as soon as he stopped the car. He had his hands visible. He was not being violent. He was not being combative. He was like, what's going on? Like, y'all should give me a reason why you're pulling me over. And an officer should give you a reason why they're pulling you over. Not just start yelling and screaming at you to get out your car and threatening you. Like, it made me so mad to see a black person in America be treated like that because of the color of his skin. I don't know, but it just made me so mad to see them treating him like that for no reason at all. He was not being violent. He just wanted an answer. What is this traffic stop for? Why are you pulling me over? They should let you legally. They need to tell you why they're pulling you over. The whole video, they're like, we're not going to tell you until you get out the car, and yelling at him. If I was him, I would be scared to get out that car, and I know that he was scared to get out that car. And it makes me so mad. And it's disgusting to see police officers abusing their power like that. It's messed up. And it really just made me mad. That's my opinion about it. But yeah. Now I'm going to talk about Veronika Rodriguez. And this happened recently. I just saw this on TikTok as well. It does involve a sexual assault. Yes, a sexual assault. And if that may upset you or trigger you, please just click off the video now. I don't want to upset anybody. Veronika Rodriguez is a 26-year-old woman who lives in Pennsylvania, and when she told police that she had an audio recording of her sexual assault, they charged her with felony wiretapping for recording him without his knowledge or consent and filing a false police report. She worked at the Air National Guard base in Enfield, where she met a man who said he was a doctor and had just started working there. He asked her out to dinner and to show him around. The next night, they met at a restaurant and it ended up being closed. And so she suggested that they just reschedule, but he said that he would take her to a different restaurant down the road. Once she's in his car, he started asking her questions that made her uncomfortable. In an attempt to get out of the situation, she pretends to call the restaurant with one number wrong so she could pretend that the restaurant was closed. So he would just take her back home, and this call was verified in her call logs. He sees the restaurant is open, so they go in and order food. He orders her a Long Island iced tea, which she has not had before, and begins to feel extremely drunk. He keeps asking her uncomfortable questions. She told police that that's when she started to feel uneasy and unsafe. Realizing she was drunk, she started to record the conversation. He asked about her sex life, to which she responded that she was celibate and part of the church and that sex was completely off the table. They end up leaving the restaurant, and when she's walking into the car, she realizes that she was so drunk she couldn't form a proper sentence. When they got in the car, he starts to grab the back of her neck and her chest, and she says, "No, I'm good, I'm fine, you don't need to do that." He tries to kiss her, and she rejects him again, saying, "Don't, you're trying to kiss me." Despite the rejection, he continues to kiss her so violently that it makes her nose bleed. They drive to a store to get nail spray and tissues to help stop the nosebleed. She then asks again if he can just take her home. He says, "No, we should hang out more, like we should have some fun. That's what friends do." Drives her to an isolated wooded area. He then puts his hands down her pants, and when she takes them out, he jokes around, laughing it off, saying it's for medical reasons because I'm a doctor, and she said, "No, it's not." She then starts getting more nervous and says, "I like you, but will you be offended if we don't have sex?" He says no, but then proceeds to take off his pants and pulls her onto his lap. She then said, "No, no." He said he wasn't doing anything. And then, in a last chance to get back to her car, she tries to convince him to go to her place. He says, "I don't know," and then sexually assaults her. After the assault, the local police pulled up to the car that was in the middle of nowhere and wrote both of their names for a citation for trespassing. This was all caught on audio recording. The next day, her sergeant pulls her into a room and asks her about the situation. This is when she finds out he's not a doctor and he's not new on the base. He's actually a commissioned officer who regularly works at the base. The military believes her, and the man was discharged. However, the local cops said that they thought it was weird that she waited 3 days to report it and didn't report it until after her superiors confronted her. And they said that she kept in contact with him after the incident and sent a picture of her chest, but they failed to mention that the picture was of the bruises that he inflicted on her, and her saying that it looks like she got attacked. Now, this enrages me so much because if the police are trying to get her on recording him without his consent, what about her consent? That he did not care, and on the recording you can hear her saying, "No, stop it," that she does not want to do this, that the sick person continued to do it and assault her when she did not want this and did not care about her consent whatsoever. But the police are so concerned about his consent of a video recording that proves what happened. It makes me so mad. It infuriates me that men don't care about the consent of women in this country, and it's sick and it's messed up. And honestly, I just want to punch this guy in the face. Like, I don't condone violence, but it makes me so mad to hear stories like this about men who take away the consent of women who don't care about their consent and just do whatever they want regardless. It makes me very, very mad. But yeah, this is the end of the episode. Now I'm going to have some links and stuff for Pennsylvania, which is where the Veronika case is. I have a few phone numbers. I have the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE. And you can also text START to 88788 for help. And then the other ones that I have are really just websites. These are straight a Pennsylvania government website. There's one for resources for victim services. There is one Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for domestic violence support, and then just the Pennsylvania Victim Services, but for just domestic violence. There are plenty of resources on all three of these websites, and I will be posting all of the links in the description box below, along with all of my social medias and everything. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great and beautiful, wonderful, lovely day. And yeah, I hope everyone smiles and has a wonderful day. I'll see you next time on Let's Talk About It, guys. Have a nice night, day, evening, whatever it is. I've said that 3 times already, but love you guys. Bye.